Alpha.
Omega.
Aha, we haven't talked about the magical wars lately. Hollywood being exposed at the Golden Globe 2020 was epic. It looks pretty positive for us lately. I'd like to have your opinions on this. Oh, sure. I'll be happy to talk about it. We are smack dab in the middle of a magical war, and we are invaded by demons like you wouldn't believe. They have been pouring through, and they've got a foothold here. Okay, take for example. I mean, this is like classic. I've been telling people for this for months and months and months at our morning rituals. We're invaded by demons. Many of our leaders, politically, industrially, uh, even spiritually, all of these leaders, not all of them, but many of them are demon possessed
Yes.
and are being motivated and moved by these demons without even realizing it. They're not completely unaware of it. But right now, there's an incredibly great example of this.
Yes.
Go watch again the State of the Union message. But instead of watching Trump and his speech, watch Nancy Pelosi behind.
Oh, yes.
She becomes more and more and more agitated. By the end of the speech, she can't control the demon at all anymore. It's totally controlling her.
Yes.
She's doing things that make her look so bad that if she were consciously aware of what she's doing, there's no way she would be doing that.
I mean, come on. How many times does she have to see herself lick her dentures in public on camera before
Right.
she starts figuring out that the poly grip she's using is
It's not
out?
working.
It's, gosh. It's really astonishing that some people can be so unconscious of their physical body, that you can't control your physical body. Now, I understand, I've seen commercials about people who can't control the way they move, and the darting tongue and the weird thing about the feet, but I hope she's not on antipsychotic medicines that are making her tongue dart about her mouth like that.
Right.
Geez, that's kind of frightening. Or her toes wiggling uncontrollably in her shoes under the desk. I mean,
This is
it's
it.
scary.
It's not so easy usually to spot this in people, but in this case, it was just over the top. It was just so obvious you could see it, and I'm surprised none of the news commentators, nobody ever, even in the fringe news commentators, nobody would say, "Hey, that looks like demon possession," because that's exactly what it looks like.
Right.
It's a classic case of demon possession.
Yes.
So, the problem is, we've been in this war for a long time and we've been getting our asses kicked for centuries
Right.
because of the fact that the black magicians have been using some really diabolical stuff.
Yes.
Ever since the Aztecs, ever since the Jesuits met the Aztecs and brought back that Aztec magic,
Wow.
there's been human sacrifice going on.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that energy of human sacrifice is formidable. It's not easy to defeat that kind of tactic in a magical war. Certainly, we're not going to stoop down to their methods. That's not who we are.
No.
We don't kill people just for magical power, unlike the black magicians. But what's very interesting, it was just a theory a couple of years ago, but it sure looked like the best way to counter the power of demons is with the power of the greatest exorcist who ever lived, Jesus of Nazareth.
Yes.
So that's why we chose specifically this magic, and it's one of the reasons we chose specifically this magic, and have been using it to establish human freedom worldwide. In this way, we're not fighting against the black magicians. We're not fighting against the energy of human sacrifice that they're throwing at us.
Right.
But instead, we're using the energy of the sun itself.
Yes.
The God force energy streaming from the sunrise every morning to free humanity. That's a huge energy. The energy of sunrise, harnessed using the magic of Jesus, is strong enough to defeat the human sacrifice of the black magicians. And that's why we're at this turning point.
Yes.
For the first time in centuries, we're winning, folks. We are winning this war. We're kicking their butts instead of the other way around for a change. And we see that all over the place. And another thing is that, another thing that we have noticed is that everything that we have asked for in the morning rituals has happened.
Yes.
Every single thing.
Yes.
It's almost spooky.
We're very careful with what we ask.
We're very careful what we ask. Oh, thank you so much, Irene. She says, you guys so rock. Golden Dawn will win. Thank you. That's so sweet. It's not just the Golden Dawn. We have powerful, powerful allies. There are Christian prayer warriors across the nation that are praying for the freedom of our country and the success of our country, and that things will go well. But we're doing the best that we can too. We were talking about it this morning. I was asked by Leo Zagami online. You may have seen the figure, the episode. He asked me, "Well, is prayer not enough? Why magic?"
Right.
Of course, prayer is great, but that's like asking, "Isn't the infantry enough? Why do we need an air force?"
Right.
Because really, that's where the magic of Jesus does come in, because it's the magic of the angels, of the legions of angels that he commanded.
Yes.
And they're here. They come every morning. Every single day they're here. We live in the presence of those angels all the time here at Columhinge. They come and they go constantly. And we're in communication with them. So, yeah, the Christian prayer warriors, they're the infantry. We're the Air Force. When they get pinned down, that's why we need good intel. We need to know what's happening where and when our magic is most effective.
That's right.
So we can act to help.
In the moment.
And luckily, we've been given really, really good intel lately. And we've been very, very effective because of it. And we finally got enough power to overcome the energy that the black magicians keep throwing at us.
Yes.
That's the best news. Right. It's incredible. I mean, go look and watch the movie They Live.
Yes.
It's a good one. We tried in our last video to include a short section of it, and they copyright struck us immediately and slammed the video down off of Facebook like you wouldn't believe. But yeah, take a look at They Live. It's very, very interesting because that's kind of similar to what we've got. We have these demon-possessed people that are walking among us looking like normal folks.
When they're not.
Right. There's very, very little of them that is left. In some of these people, there's only the demon left.
And you can really see it in those people.
And some of these people, most of the time, they have the demon under control. But in extreme circumstances, like what happened the other night with Nancy Pelosi was not in control at all. The demon was in control of her.
Absolutely. She was being ridden right there in front of us.
Right. Now that's something that's very different too. This concept of being ridden actually has no place in high magic.
Right.
This is a voodoo concept, folks. The voodoo practitioners use magical methods in order to be ridden by the lower, where they lose control completely and the lower are just manipulating them. They become totally the instrument of the lower.
Right.
Well, the Golden Dawn actually prohibits this.
Yes, specifically.
Specifically, that we swear not to put ourselves in such a passive state that one will lose the power of their will in the moment. So they were thinking more about mesmer and that sort of thing at the time.
Right, right.
But it fits very well with the voodoo craze that's going on.
Was going on.
Was going on in Wicca, especially.
Yes, especially in Wicca.
Yeah. And it's really because they have this concept in Wicca of drawing down the moon and drawing down the power of the goddess and the god. Well, that's fine if what you're doing is using a technique like the Assumption of God forms in the Golden Dawn. And then at the end of it, you take them back off. But these people putting on these God forms and never taking them off, and they're doing it not like we do, interacting with the God forms, but they're doing it like the voodoo practitioners do, allowing themselves to be ridden.
Yes.
Causing all kinds of problems.
Yes. And it's really leaking out into Wicca and causing problems because They don't understand that, and I'm going to let a little secret slip. Almost all the founders of Wicca were Golden Dawn practitioners. So there's so much Golden Dawn magic in Wicca that if you were ever to pick up a book and start going through it, you'd say, "Oh, well, this is that, and this is that, and this is that, and this is that. Why did they just change everything? Why didn't they just do Golden
And you've got two layers of influence. You've got the Crowleyan influence, unfortunately, Golden Dawn information filtered into Wicca through Crowley, but you also have Dion Fortune's influence.
Yes, and Dion Fortune was wonderful. She very carefully went through with a fine-tooth comb and picked and teased out all of the influences of Crowley as much as possible. And that influence, which seemed too deeply ingrained, she showed how it was not only fully borrowed, but it wasn't even his idea to put it in there. Many of the greatest ideas that what's his name had were actually, of course, stolen from people that he worked with. Without, and that's the other thing we always recommend, is that when you learn something, you take the time to tell people where you learned it.
Right.
Because unless you start talking about, well, with people who are interested, of course, when you start talking about, well, I do Golden Dawn magic and this, that, and the other with select people, which you can do, it's important that when you give them an idea, that you give them a name that they can go to, so that if they decide that they want to do research on things that maybe you're not even interested in, you've given them something more to go on. And Dion Fortune, absolutely incredible woman. She was a formidable force in at least 3 different magical traditions that I know.
Also, she brought very much psychology to magic
Yes, she did.
and was a profound influence on Rigardi.
Yes.
Rigardi, after his split with Crowley, oh gosh, you probably have heard about this, but I've never told the story on camera before, so I actually will tell the story now. Israel Rigardi, as a very young man, went to become the personal secretary of Aleister Crowley. And while he was there, of course, he wound up getting raped by Crowley, and a whole lot of things happened, and wound up with Stockholm Syndrome. And by the time, like so many people in sadomasochistic relationships.
Oh, yes.
And then at the end, when the whole thing, Crowley basically threw him out on his ass. He just had enough of him, and see you later, goodbye, whatever you're going to do, I don't care.
Right.
And after that, Rigardi was crushed. And he spent about 6 months recuperating in the home of Dion Fortune. So that was where he first came into contact with the psychological side that was to affect him so profoundly, in addition to the Golden Dawn.
Rigardi came into contact.
Rigardi, right, came into contact through Dion Fortune.
Yes.
Right, with the psychological material. And that eventually wound up with Rigardi becoming a chiropractor, as a doctor of chiropractic, as well as a Reichian therapist. He was working with the ideas of Wilhelm Reich, which is quite fascinating, by the way.
Oh, yes.
SCIFER, Frater Archimedes says, I'm assuming that questions asked are only to be about neo-magic only. What is neo-magic? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Neo-magic. Are you talking about the Matrix? Or New Golden Dawn, Neo Golden Dawn? By the way, I'm really glad that this came up. This is quite interesting. Karen then says neo-shamanism. We're really not sure what he meant. I'm sure he'll clarify for us what the question actually was. But it's interesting because Leslie and I were just talking about this just before we came on camera.
In class, yes.
Yeah, because we've been really very much at a loss to describe what it is that we do outside every morning in our daily ritual. Because it certainly looks like nothing of Christianity that we've ever seen before.
Right.
And yet, it comes from the original Christian sources.
So, in fact, it's archaic.
Yeah, it's archaic. It's the magical bit that was repressed in the 3rd century and gotten rid of, and they didn't want it, and now it's back.
Right.
So...
what else came back?
Right. So what's interesting is we finally came up with the right name, because in the neo-pagan community, we've had neo-pagans and neo-shamans, and Neo-pagans, what they have done is that they have studied ancient ritual practices of
Yes.
ancient pagan cults, and they have revived them.
Yes.
They're revivalists. Well, Leslie and I are also very much revivalists. We
Hmm.
are reviving the ancient magic of Jesus of Nazareth as it was taught back then, and we're reconstructing it very carefully
Yes.
to what we believe is as close to the original as possible.
Yes.
And we're reviving it, invoking the 12 every day, invoking the 12 watchers every day,
Hmm.
and invoking all of the energies of the treasury of light every day in order to really activate again the magical egregore before we start communicating the baptisms of the system on a wide basis.
Right.
So we've noticed, hey, look, this is so similar to what the neo-pagans have been doing. And so I thought of it, and I think, hey, it would actually be a very good idea
Yes.
that we call what we're doing out there
Neo-Christianity.
neo-Christianity.
Yes. Because just like the pagan tradition that I come from, where you carefully scan the anthropological records and you go through the museums and you look for the old leftover, the original spells, the original rituals written in the original languages, translate it, dust it off, try it out. I did that with a lot of paganism, a
And
lot of
now we're doing it with
neo-paganism.
Christianity, with
It's
Christian magic.
fantastic, and it works just the same way. It's just as effective, and dipping into these energies that haven't been worked with in hundreds and hundreds of years feels so nice because it's like drinking water from a very, very deep well. And when you see it, the water it has a blue tint to it because it is so clean and so pure and so prehistoric and preserved. It looks different from all the other water on earth. And that's how this magic is to me.
It's really amazing. And the opening of the treasury of light is amazing in and of itself. But the real beauty of this system is the baptisms. And that's what makes it so
Mhm.
unique in the sense that if you talk about Christianity, Christianity has basically abandoned magic
Oh, completely.
1700 years ago.
Mhm.
And except for prayer, interestingly enough, and prayer is a very powerful form of magic.
Yes.
Now, but the magic of Jesus and the whole notion of Jesus as magician was deliberately stomped out
Yes.
because the people of the day saw Jesus as a magician. Almost everybody did. And when the Christians
Hmm.
were trying to proselytize, oh, you mean Jesus the magician? No, 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 no. We're talking about Jesus, the Son of God.
Well, yeah, but Apollonius is son of God too, and I heard he's doing all the same stuff that Jesus is doing. So what have you got that's different?
So they had some problems. Hi, Greg.
Hi.
Neo Judaism, Greg says. Good idea.
Yeah. I'll
Okay,
say.
Neo. Or Meo Judaism. That's great.
Oh, that's great.
Neo Christianity. Yeah, Neo Christianity. Why not?
Uh,
I like it. It's a very
mhm.
accurate description because Neo Christianity carries with it the idea of the revival of an ancient practice
Mhm.
and the reconstruction of ancient rites. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yes. Yes, it is. And it needs to be done. Christianity has many times over gone into new areas and absorbed new techniques into
Right,
itself. And this is no different, except this is more like Christianity coming home to
right.
its actual roots.
You know, I like the idea of Neo Christianity because, in contradistinction, because, for example, in the Bruce Codex, there's absolutely nothing about the Eucharist ritual.
Never, nothing,
Not at
nothing,
all. It's
nothing.
not. It's completely missing. It's just not there. Instead, there are other sacraments:
Oh, yes.
the baptism of the waters of life, the
Hmm.
baptism of fire, the baptism of the Holy Spirit. These are the three primary sacraments of Neo-Christianity.
Yes. It's very exciting.
It is indeed, especially now that we come up with the name.
Right. Well, because naming things is important. In fact, naming things is the first way that language really became established.
Right.
You know, what is that? Well, it is called this. Well, how did you come up with that name? Well, I don't know.
Well, they say that because everyone says, well, the neo-pagans, it's not like original paganism, it's new, it's neo-paganism.
Right, right.
Okay, fine. Well, then what are you supposed to call a religion that was a part of Christianity 2,000 years ago and yet has been missing for, say, a millennia and a half?
Right.
So and is reconstructed and revived. Obviously, it's neo.
Yes.
So, neo-Christianity. Well, that's about it. Thank you so much, folks. Really appreciate your being here. And remember, have faith and expect a miracle.
May your magics work better than expected.
Yesterday we released this brand new ebook, Was Jesus a Magician? Give you the basic background of the rediscovery of the lost books of Yahweh, how it happened, why they were repressed, why it is that the magic of Jesus was nearly destroyed and wiped from the face of the earth, and the miracle by which it survived. How we only have one precious manuscript of this ancient knowledge, and that's truly all there is left. Well, maybe in the Vatican they have it, but they're not about to give us that to fill in the little gaps that we've found. So be sure to make sure you download this. You don't want to miss this. You can get it for free for now at thesecretsofjesus.com. Thesecretsofjesus.com.
Are you familiar with the Rosen Cruiser with what's his name? He's popular in the States. He's the president or the
Emperor.
Imperator.
The president.
Emperor.
Imperator.
From the Golden Dawn. What's his name?
Oh.
David Griffin holds this position as Emperor.
Imperator.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin. Have David Griffin.
I saw an email yesterday that he sent out about, there's a magical war going on.
The Mage War.
Demons of the infernal realm. I'm all of them.
There is really a magical war going on.
The Mage War.
There is a guy called David Griffin who is heading all these magicians.
David Griffin is S.L. McGregor Mather's present successor.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
I'm Golden Dawn Imperator David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
Now David Griffin.
There's a magical war going on.
So there is really a magical war going on.
Alpha.
Omega.